All right, I think we'll get started. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Corey Grimveld, a program manager with the National Offshore Wind Research and Development Consortium, and welcome to our Innovations in Offshore Wind 2.0 Round 2 Topic Preview webinar. So first, just a couple matters of housekeeping. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the session. Also, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our channels later this week. So first, I'll introduce the consortium, then I'll give a quick recap of round 1 of our current Solicitation 2.0, and then I'll get into the topic areas for our forthcoming round 2. And then lastly, we just want to go over some quick tips we developed for drafting successful proposals. So the National Offshore Wind Research and Development Consortium, our goal is to facilitate a nationally focused, not-for-profit organization collaborating with industry on prioritized R&D activities to reduce levelized cost of energy of offshore wind in the US and maximize other economic and social benefits. Our desired impacts are to fund the development of innovations directly responsive to the technical and supply chain barriers faced by offshore wind developers in the US, build strong networks connecting technology innovators, investors, and industry, and also increase US content and job opportunities. Our current funding comes from the Department of Energy, NYSERDA, as well as our state members of Massachusetts, Maine, New Jersey, Virginia, and Maryland. So far, we've awarded over $35 million in R&D funds. Our projects fall under 3 categories that progress along the technology readiness and commercial readiness scale. Applicants will identify which category they are applying to in their application. So at the earliest stage, we have technical feasibility studies. Category A is for technical feasibility studies that conduct preliminary research into the concepts underlying new products, systems, strategies, or services as a first stage of development. Then category B is new product, system, service, or strategy development. Category B includes efforts that are crucial to the development of a marketable product, system, strategy, or service, and any testing or validation of an innovation that is not already fully commercially available. And lastly, category C is demonstration of technology, systems, or services. This is kind of the later stage of commercial and technical development, just what needs to be done to get a given technology to gain industry acceptance. So in round 1, this was completed in January and resulted in awards to 6 projects. 3 projects were awarded under the Supply and Logistics Challenge area, and 3 projects were awarded under the O&M and Safety Challenge area. So now we're moving on to round 2 of Solicitation 2.0. Round 2 has approximately $3.5 million available in funding. And the 2 technical challenge areas are 1, facilitating ocean area coexistence, and 2, electrical and grid challenges unique to offshore wind transmission. So the first technical challenge area is focused on technical and strategic innovation that facilitates coexistence within ocean areas used for offshore wind amongst marine mammals, fish, and turtles, as well as commercial, recreational, and landside stakeholders. Innovations to improve coexistence within ocean areas would help reduce potential siting conflicts, offshore wind system componentry interaction with marine mammals, fish, and turtles, and lower construction and operation costs at US offshore wind installations. Successful proposals in this area will not duplicate existing technologies or projects, Rather, they will propose novel technologies or commercially or technically advanced technology development that has already been conducted in this field. Please note, NOWRDC is not seeking biological or baseline environmental or seabed surveys. To go more into depth into what we're seeking in Challenge Area 1, we're specifically seeking novel technical tools that improve shared use within offshore wind ocean areas amongst commercial fisheries, recreational ocean users, and landside stakeholders. Examples of projects that could fall under this include new technologies that streamline communication and coordination of activity amongst ocean users within offshore wind areas, new technologies that reduce the interference of floating or fixed bottom wind projects with commercial fishing, new technical solutions that aid in safe navigation and vessel operation for commercial and recreational fishing vessels, or solutions that reduce conflicts with landowners for export cable, beach crossings, and landside transitions. Under this challenge area, NOWRDC is also specifically seeking technical or strategic innovations that provide offshore wind developers and operators the information and capabilities they need to shape their activities to mitigate the ecological impacts of offshore wind facility development and operation on marine mammals, fish, and turtles. This specific area is more focused on marine mammals, fish, and turtles. More specifically, projects that could fall under this category include offshore wind turbine design and installation techniques that contribute to real-time mitigation of noise impacts during construction and O&M, technology solutions that mitigate and reduce interactions with federally managed, protected, and endangered species and their habitats, and technology solutions that protect marine mammals, fish, and turtles during construction windows while avoiding curtailment. Moving on to technical challenge area 2, electrical and grid challenges unique to offshore wind transmission. Proposals in this area should focus on innovations and strategies that increase offshore wind generation forecasting or improve system reliability and resilience. This can be done by addressing offshore wind infrastructure needs and evaluating impacts, such as extreme weather, to reliable offshore and onshore grid operation. This solicitation seeks proposals that improve the evaluation of vulnerability in and increase the resiliency of onshore transmission infrastructure required to integrate offshore wind power to the broader onshore grid. This infrastructure may include substations, point of interconnections, and coastal transmission and distribution assets. Specifically, NOWRDC seeks strategic and technical innovations to improve offshore wind forecasting, including wind power forecasts at the turbine system level, at offshore wind plant level, and the forecast for provision of grid services by offshore wind. Techniques to improve wind power forecasting have historically been based and hybrid approaches. Have historically been based on physical, statistical, AI-based, and hybrid approaches. Project focus need not be limited to deterministic forecasts with refined spatial and temporal granularity. Data set collection, standardization, and forecast validation are highly encouraged. Examples of projects that could fall under this category include a proposed methodology for improving power forecasting that combines superior physics and statistics-based techniques to create multiple power forecasts that include uncertainty quantification. A replicable methodology that processes localized offshore wind power forecasts as inputs and determines the value of associated grid services as an output, or a methodology based on long historical weather data combined with offshore wind power conversion that identifies time and duration of critical periods for grid services needs, both high wind, low load, and low wind, and high load. NOWRDC also seeks more specifically technical innovations that evaluate extreme weather impacts to offshore and onshore grid solutions to reduce offshore wind curtailment and maintain overall system reliability, and valuation strategies to allow for comparative analysis of solutions to improve offshore wind grid reliability and resilience. Examples of projects that can fall under this category include a proposed technology that enables offshore black start capability for an offshore grid, as well as a valuation strategy that allows for comparative evaluation of this technology from a regulatory and energy infrastructure planning perspective. Strategies to handle extreme weather impacts, such as polar vortex and icing, to offshore wind in Northeast Atlantic and the grid in the region. Cable and offshore substation designs that can sustain harsh ocean environments, or a novel co-located energy storage system design or planning process that can dispatch during outages and store power during periods of curtailment. So all of the information regarding round 2 is subject to change, but I do want to say that this timeline is particularly subject to change, at least for now. We anticipate releasing round 2 in February, or potentially later in January. Concept papers would be due March 9th. Full submission invitations would be issued in March and April to select applicants. Full submissions would be due April 28th, and then final award notifications will be issued in June. So to get more into what this means, the first phase is concept paper submission. This would be the same 4-page concept paper template as round 1. The template will cover project impact, innovation, state of the art, risks and challenges, project plan, and project team. Again, this will be due March 9th. Then following scoring committee review, select applicants will be invited to submit a full proposal submission. This will be a more extensive application package consisting of a detailed proposal narrative, scope of work, technology readiness and commercial readiness calculator, milestone payment schedule, and a detailed budget justification. Additional forms are required based on the funding category. But this will all be outlined when the solicitation is released. Full proposal submissions are due April 28th. So upon release, the full solicitation program notice, as well as the concept paper template, will be available on NYSERDA's website. We will publish the solicitation release on our website, our social media accounts, and to our email subscribers. For the most up-to-date information, I recommend subscribing to our mailing list. So just go to our homepage, scroll all the way to the bottom where it says enroll today. So now we are planning on hosting a webinar in February during the open solicitation period to give additional guidance on how to draft successful proposals. The specific date of this will be announced along with the round 2 release. And in the meantime, we want to share some common attributes of successful proposals. These are by no means requirements for award, but they're rather suggestions to applicants to become better familiar with what our reviewers are looking for. So first, when the solicitation is published, we recommend reviewing the scoring criteria. This might be somewhat obvious, but the scoring criteria contains most of the tips contained here. It's also what the reviewers use to score the proposals, so we recommend treating it as a checklist. Second, engage industry and document industry engagement in your proposal to the extent possible. We recognize that this is somewhat difficult, so we've listed a couple avenues to become better acquainted with industry. One is a periodic supply chain pitch session that NOWRDC hosts. More details will be released with this along with the solicitation, but we anticipate holding one of these pitch sessions sometime in February. Also, the business network for offshore wind contains a supply chain registry. Various states also have offshore wind supply chain registries. We recommend getting involved and listed in those. And then lastly, there are also industry conferences such as IPF. Third, we recommend ensuring the proposal is well written, communicates the key details about the project clearly, and is free of grammatical and formatting errors. 4, include letters of support when possible. When applicable, use citations for commercial or scientific claims. Ensure the project team contains expertise that covers all aspects of the project. If the lead proposer does not contain the full expertise required for the project in-house, consider consulting external experts and adding them to the proposal as subcontractors. Graphics and photos can be very helpful in explaining technical concepts. And when stating potential benefits of the proposed project or technology, clearly connect the innovation to the industry need. Sometimes this may seem obvious to the project team, but not to the reviewers. And then a couple tips for specific sections in the concept and full proposal submission templates. When given the opportunity to address technical risk in the project or technology, add as much detail as possible and include mitigation plans. Reviewers are often familiar with general risks in a given technology area, and they'll see simplified risk descriptions as a weakness. And when given the opportunity to describe the project plan, add detail that demonstrates how the technology readiness level and commercial readiness level of the project's technology advances. And also, when given the opportunity to describe a potential reduction in the levelized cost of energy of offshore wind as a result of the technology focus in the project, explain the rationale behind the calculation with as much detail as possible. So this webinar was mostly intended to just give a preview of the technical challenge areas that will be included in round 2 of Solicitation 2.0. We're happy to take any questions now, or especially when the solicitation is released, which we expect will be soon. We're happy to take questions over email as well at info@nationaloffshorewind.org. We'll publish frequently asked questions and their answers on our website. We'll also link this on our social media. Yeah, I think we can take some questions now though as well.
Corey, there was just a request to go back to the timetable schedule and maybe hold there, just so people can see that again.
Sure.
Thank you.
So one question regarding challenge area 1, facilitating ocean area coexistence. Would baseline environmental surveys be eligible to apply under challenge area 1? Generally speaking, NOWRDC is looking for tools or strategies that yield the information or data that facilitate ocean area coexistence. These can be tools that more effectively capture important environmental information, excuse me, such as the location of marine mammals, but this solicitation does not fund baseline scientific research. So we have a question. Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
Yes, I'm responding to a question concerning development level energy storage. Not quite sure what you mean by that, but anything that is submitted, any proposal that's submitted to really be focused on R&D and innovation. So we're looking for new concepts, new ideas, or advancements of innovations that improve deliverability and installation of offshore wind. So hopefully that provides a bit more specificity around the storage piece. The next question, Corey, I'll just take this because I see it up on my screen, is limits per each proposal team. There are limits on how many proposals you can submit. So I believe it's 3, if I'm not mistaken, but I would clarify, it's clarified in the actual solicitation itself. So that's the number of proposals, not the amount of funding. But each of the categories that Corey pointed out earlier do have funding caps as well. So for example, feasibility studies are capped at 300,000. That's just an example. So details on each category and what the funding caps are in the solicitation, as are the limitations on how many proposals you can submit.
And yes, there is a limit of 3 proposals per lead proposer.
A couple people have asked this, Corey, which is whether or not the recording will be made available. Yes, it will. And as Corey mentioned, we intend to do a few additional sessions in the coming weeks, which will be similar in nature. So if you missed this one or you can't access the recording for some reason, just stay tuned and there'll be additional webinars.
Yeah, and the full descriptions of the 2 technical challenge areas will be published along with the solicitation round 2 release.
There's a question, are international collaborations allowed? As Corey pointed out earlier in the conversation, yes, although all proposers or successful proposals will benefit the US wind industry and deployment, so they must be US focused. If there are international entities and work is being performed outside of the US, a foreign work waiver will be required upon contracting if you are successful. Again, there's a question on storage. Yes, we're talking about innovation related to energy storage to increase reliability of offshore wind.
And yes, just to clarify, the webinar recording will be posted later this week. Slides will be available as well.
Someone asked about specific required TRL or CRL levels for the proposal. You are required to submit what the range would be for each of those in your proposal. So what your expected, ideally increase TRL and CRL in any proposal. So those should be submitted, but there's no threshold requirement.
Any other questions from the audience? Just to quickly go back here, if any questions come up following this webinar, or especially again when the full solicitation is released, please email info@nationaloffshorewind.org, and FAQs and the responses will be posted on our website.
Corey, I'll just answer one more before we cut out. I don't know if you see it or I see it, but cost shares are encouraged but not required. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you all for joining today. Yeah, as I mentioned, the recording, the slides, and future FAQ questions and their answers will all be posted on our website. Thanks all.